The year was 2008. Jacob Finley, a keen outdoorsman, ventured into the sprawling wilderness of the Klamath National Forest. He was an experienced hiker, familiar with the trails and the deceptive quiet of ancient pines. He told his family he'd be back in 3 days, a usual trip for him. He was never seen again. His car was found at the trailhead, neatly parked, untouched. The initial search was extensive, covering miles of dense forest. Teams combed the area. Helicopters droned overhead. They found no trace of Jacob, no sign of struggle, no discarded gear. It was as if the forest had simply swallowed him whole, leaving only questions in its wake. The silence stretched, becoming heavier with each passing hour. The disappearance of Jacob Finley was officially classified as a missing person case. However, the details that followed, or rather the lack thereof, hinted at something far more unsettling. His case, like so many others, began with an eerie stillness that defied explanation. The missing footprints were strange enough, but what happens when we compare them to other vanishings in the same valley? Next, we confront the reality of folded clothes, no body. Search teams, after days of fruitless searching for Jacob, finally found something. Not Jacob, but his belongings. His hiking boots, neatly placed side by side on a mossy rock. His backpack, resting against a fallen log, its contents undisturbed. Inside the backpack, his wallet, keys, and phone were all present. Most unsettling of all, his neatly folded clothes lay beside it. His sturdy hiking jacket, a pair of worn denim jeans, even his socks, all carefully arranged. It was almost as if he had prepared for something, then simply stepped out of them and vanished. There was no struggle, no rip in the fabric, no mud or evidence of a sudden departure. The scene was unnervingly pristine. This detail, specific and bizarre, left investigators baffled. Who folds their clothes before disappearing into thin air? This was no typical lost hiker scenario. It was an act of deliberate yet inexplicable arrangement. This bizarre discovery wasn't isolated. It echoed in other cases across these very mountains. And what happens when these unusual scenes are discovered in the lingering mist? Next, we delve into what happens between the fog banks. The Klamath region, particularly the area where Jacob Finley disappeared, is notorious for its sudden, thick fog banks. They roll in without warning, obscuring vision, disorienting even seasoned navigators. Locals speak of these fogs with a hushed reverence. And before we dive deeper, make sure you subscribe and turn on the notification bell. These mysteries aren't random, and if this video found you, it was meant to. Now let's go. They describe an unnatural silence that descends with the mist, muffled sounds, distorted distances. Search and rescue operations often battle these meteorological phenomena. Their efforts hampered, their timelines stretched thin. It's during these periods that many vanishings occur. It's often noted in the reports: heavy fog present during last known sighting, or search efforts impeded by dense evening mist. The fog becomes more than just weather. It feels like an accomplice. Some witnesses, those who narrowly avoided similar fates, describe an unnerving disorientation, a feeling of being watched, just before the fog became too thick to see. These fogs don't just conceal, they seem to actively disorient and confuse. The fog's role is unsettling enough, but how many other lives have been claimed or altered within its mysterious shroud? Next, we discover the alarming reality of 7 missing, 1 radius. Jacob Finley's disappearance was not an isolated incident within the Klamath region. Over the past few decades, a distressing pattern has emerged. Within a surprisingly confined geographical radius, 7 individuals have vanished without a trace, much like Jacob. These aren't just isolated hikers, They include a young family on a camping trip, an experienced prospector, and a local resident out for a day hike. Each case presents eerily similar characteristics: no bodies, minimal evidence, and often an unusual scene of abandoned belongings. The official explanations range from exposure to animal attacks, but these theories fall apart under scrutiny. How do 7 different people, with varied experience levels, simply disappear so completely within such a specific zone? The statistics defy simple coincidence. These repeated vanishings within a relatively small area create a chilling statistical anomaly. It suggests not random misfortune, but a recurring process. This tightening geographic pattern begs the question of what forces are truly at play within that zone. These multiple vanishings are deeply disturbing. But what about those few who manage to escape the clutches of this strange pattern? Next, we hear from the hikers who made it out. Not everyone who encounters the strange phenomena in these woods vanishes. There are survivors, though their stories are often dismissed or met with skepticism. These individuals typically describe extreme disorientation, a feeling of being outside of time, and profound fear. One hiker, a woman named Sarah, vividly recounted losing all sense of direction within a surprisingly small patch of woods. She described hearing whispers that seemed to come from everywhere and nowhere, and the distinct feeling of being watched, deeply, intensely. She was found hours later, miles from where she thought she was, in a near catatonic state. Another, an elderly man named Thomas, described a pervasive silence that blanketed the forest. A silence so profound, it was painful. He claimed to have seen strange, fleeting shadows at the edge of his vision, only to have them disappear when directly observed. Days later, he was discovered wandering on a remote logging road, dehydrated and incoherent. Their accounts, fragmented and often terrifying, paint a picture of disorientation and unseen presence. While they survived, the experience left them traumatized, unable to fully articulate the terror they felt. Their narratives offer a terrifying glimpse into what might be happening to others. These harrowing survivor accounts are chilling. But what happened to their detailed reports? Next, we examine the unsettling reality of ranger silence and misfiles. Official reports regarding these disappearances, particularly those detailing the unusual aspects, frequently go unremarked upon. Ranger logs that meticulously document odd details often seem to vanish or are buried deep within archives. Eyewitness accounts detailing strange lights or inexplicable sensations are often relegated to footnotes, if they appear at all. There's a subtle but persistent pattern of downplaying or outright dismissing the more bizarre elements. Search and rescue personnel, initially baffled by some discoveries, are later encouraged to stick to more conventional explanations. The narrative becomes lost hiker or exposure. Some former rangers, speaking off record, have mentioned an unspoken policy, a directive to keep things by the book, even when the book doesn't cover what truly happened. It creates a vacuum of information where official records offer little beyond the bare facts of a disappearance. This official silence and the convenient misfiling of unsettling details are not accidental. They contribute to a pervasive sense of secrecy. What exactly are these authorities trying to keep quiet? And do those details recur like symbols in forbidden texts? Next, we explore the recurring symbols. As investigators deep dive into these cases, one element, seemingly insignificant, persistently resurfaces. Strange, almost archaic symbols. They are not carvings or obvious markings. Instead, these are patterns described by a few bewildered witnesses, often seen just before disorientation.
One hiker spoke of geometric patterns etched into the forest floor, made from snapped twigs and pebbles. Another recalled a distinct spiral shape, formed by strangely disturbed rocks, at the edge of a clearing where a fellow hiker disappeared. These aren't elaborate structures, but subtle arrangements. Even in Jacob Finley's general area, a search volunteer, disoriented and lost for a short time, reported seeing certain patterns of stacked stones that felt deliberate, not natural. These temporary arrangements possess a cryptic, unsettling quality. These recurring symbolic elements, often overlooked, hint at a deeper, unseen intelligence at play. They are whispers embedded within the natural landscape. What do these symbols mean? And how do they connect to the distorted sounds heard in the dark? Next, we listen closely to distorted audio and the hilltop recording. Among the suppressed details are occasional reports by search teams of unusual audio anomalies. During night operations, radios often experience inexplicable static bursts or brief, distorted human-like sounds. These aren't always logged, dismissed as equipment malfunction or atmospheric interference. However, one particular incident stands out: the hilltop recording. Years after Jacob Finley's disappearance, an independent research team, investigating other vanishings, set up sensitive audio equipment on a remote hilltop within the radius of disappearances. They hoped to capture ambient forest sounds. What they captured was chilling. Amidst the sounds of nature, a faint, rhythmic pulse could be heard, followed by what sounds like distant, guttural vocalizations. The audio is layered, almost submerged, creating a sense of something pushing through from another plane. Analysis of the recording failed to identify any known animal or human source. The sounds defy classification, a garbled, unsettling tapestry of unknown origin. It is a sonic echo of the unexplained. The recording stands as an auditory artifact of profound mystery. If these sounds aren't animal or human, then what kind of entities could be responsible? Next, we grapple with the unsettling question of creatures or constructs. The lack of definitive tracks or physical evidence leads inevitably to a chilling question. Are these disappearances the work of unknown creatures, or something far more complex? Constructs. The idea of an unseen predator is terrifying enough, but an entity that perfectly hides its presence, or even manipulates it, is another order entirely. Eyewitness accounts, however rare, lean away from conventional wildlife. Descriptions involve fleeting, indistinct figures, often tall and gaunt, moving with an unnatural grace. They dissolve into the deeper forest, leaving no tangible trace. These aren't mere misidentifications of bears or mountain lions. The precision of the folded clothes, the organized abandonment of belongings, suggests a deliberate, almost surgical act. It speaks to a level of intelligence and intent that defies simple animal behavior. It feels orchestrated, not savage. Could these be entities that exist just beyond our sensory perception, interacting with our world in ways we cannot fully comprehend? The question hovers, unsettling and unanswered, compelling even the most grounded minds to consider the impossible. When logic and known science fail, even the most rigorous minds begin to crack. Next, we witness the profound shift when skepticism breaks down. For seasoned investigators and hardened rangers, the repeated anomalies begin to chip away at conventional logic. Each case that defies explanation, each discarded theory, slowly erodes their certainty. The usual explanations become thin, transparent. Initial skepticism, a professional necessity, transforms into a reluctant acceptance of the unknown. They might not voice it publicly, but in hushed conversations and isolated moments, they admit, something here is profoundly wrong,
beyond their training. It's a humbling, terrifying realization. One retired search and rescue leader, after decades in the field, confided that the Klamath cases were different. He spoke of a presence in the woods, a feeling that settled in your bones, that nothing in nature could explain away. He left the service early, haunted by the unsolved. This breakdown of skepticism is not a leap into fantasy, but a slow, grinding erosion of empirical understanding. The accumulation of inexplicable details forces even the most rational to confront a reality that doesn't fit the established framework. This realization, shared silently among those who actually work these cases, hints at something far more pervasive. If even the hardened professionals are questioning reality, then what does that say about the patterns connecting these distinct events? Next, we confront the pattern that watches back. The pattern isn't just a series of isolated incidents. It's a living, breathing enigma. The disappearances, the folded clothes, the recurring symbols, the distorted audio, the thick fogs. They aren't random. They are threads in a vast, complex tapestry. This pattern suggests an underlying intelligence. It's not just a force that acts upon the region. It feels like it's observing, learning, perhaps even selecting. It's a silent, watchful presence across decades. It's almost as if the forest itself is an elaborate stage for these occurrences. The incidents aren't accidental. They feel like deliberate acts, carefully orchestrated, designed to confound and disappear. It's a pattern of removal, of erasure, leaving behind only the cold absence. It is as if the entity, or entities, are operating with a calculated, mysterious logic. This pattern isn't just something we observe. It's something that seems to observe us back. It's a mirror held up to human understanding, exposing its limits. What else is being watched? And who ensures the silence surrounding these events? Next, we expose the authority that won't say. The pervasive official silence around these cases is not accidental. It's a carefully maintained facade. Behind the scenes, various levels of authority, from local sheriffs to federal agencies, show a remarkable consistency in their lack of definitive answers and their swift dismissal of anomalous details. Internal documents, heavily redacted and difficult to access, hint at a broader awareness of the unusual nature of these disappearances. Yet, public statements remain vague, leaning on conventional explanations that simply do not fit the facts. This creates an unspoken understanding among those in power. These cases are to be contained, not solved. There are whispers of directives from higher up, not to explain, but to manage the narrative, to prevent panic, to maintain order. But what secret is so profound that it necessitates this level of coordinated silence? It suggests an awareness of something truly unsettling, something beyond public comprehension. This deliberate withholding of information, this collective turning of a blind eye, deepens the mystery. It proves that the cover-up is not about incompetence, but about control. The authorities know more than they are letting on. This systematic suppression of truth forms a dark, undeniable truth about these incidents. This organized silence is not about protecting the public from unknown dangers, but from forbidden knowledge. This is a pattern that echoes through history, asking why you are seeing this now. Make sure to subscribe for more videos and hit that notification bell so you never miss a new video. We'll see you in the next one.